Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. My stepsister, Alba, has always been a bit of a B word. My dad passed away when I was very young, as far as 3 years old, and although my memories of him are very blurry, I still feel a sense of warmth, love, comfort, and adoration with and towards him that I just don't with my mom. It's like my memories with my mom are the complete opposite. They're blurry as well, but in the worst ways. It's like she's always been here, unlike my dad, but her treatment towards me all my life has just caused me to repress all and everything she's put me through. And it all just started as soon as my dad passed away. My heart still breaks a little as my grandparents, both maternal and paternal, both recall how my mom brought in her affair partner and her now husband to my dad's funeral to get his blessings for their relationship. This is when they were introduced to Alba as well, who was the result of an affair my stepdad had while being with my mom. Alba's mom left her and my stepdad as soon as she gave birth to them, and as a result, he came to my mom because who wouldn't love a free babysitter that would let you walk all over her? Well, even with the protests and threats from my grandparents, my mom ended up marrying this man, and that is when they went no contact with her. But she just knew that she had me to hold over her head, a soft spot for my grandparents, and that unfortunately ended up working as my grandparents always gave in when it came to me because they knew how my mom was and wanted to create a safe space for me. So my mom is now married to my stepdad, who's obviously using her. By the time they had gotten married, he had cheated on her twice and blamed everything not just on me, but Alba as well. His logic was that having children caused him stress, and the fact that my mom was busy taking care of us always meant that she had no time for him. So he had the right to cheat on her over and over, and my mom, being the person that she is, with self respect as low as hers, she just agreed to whatever he said, as if they were holy words. But of course, she's human too, and like every other human being, she had her anger too, which she removed on none other than me. Because, of course, the moment she laid a finger on Alba, she knew she'd lose him. So she took out all her anger, frustrations, and rage on me through her words. I grew up with it, and needless to say, I was impacted with that tremendously. It wasn't just my mom, though. As time went by, I became the punching bag for my stepdad and Alba, all following in my mom's footsteps. Alba was the worst of all, though. Not only this girl, who is younger than me, obviously, bullied me verbally, but did things to me that caused me to be bullied in high school as well. That is when I had just decided that I needed to run away as far as I could when it came time for college. But of course, at the end of the day, that wasn't enough either. I continued to tolerate this terrible treatment until the day I turned 18. And boy, I bolted out of the house. It was like the happiness of me leaving was mutual. Stepdad, Alba, and Mom were waiting on this to play happy family, and so was I, so that I could leave them alone to play happy family. Still, then, my mom would often call me and berate me for things that I didn't even do. I'm not sure why I continued to take it, though. Maybe I was just too done, or maybe nothing mattered to me anymore. But what Alba did here did matter to me. I still remember I was back from college and it was Father's Day. My mom and stepdad have this tradition with Alba wherein they go out to grab brunch together on Father's Day. This year was no different. I drove myself to my grandparents' place where we had our own little Father's Day tradition of making a card and a small gift for Dad, most of the time it being a mug or a sweater that was either painted or knitted by me. This year, I had decided to make both. I'm not sure if my mom and Alba knew about this tradition. I'm assuming that they didn't because the moment I returned home with two huge boxes, both filled with cards and gifts, she had made for my dad all these years because I wanted to sit in my room and go through all of this. Well, I guess Alba had different plans for me. As soon as I got home, she started berating me for not picking up the call. I told her it was on silent because I was busy, and as always, she threw some insults at me, which I just ignored when I got to my room, but that wasn't all that Alba wanted to do. The day was almost over, and I had gone to sleep when I heard noises in my room. As soon as I woke up, I saw Alba standing there, destroying all the letters and gifts I had made for my dad. I was dumbfounded as she continued to destroy my stuff, even when I woke up. That is when I knew I had it. I pushed her out of my room while calling her the B word and locked myself in. First, looking at my stuff, which was damaged beyond belief, I saw red. I knew if I stayed back, I was going to punch her unconscious, and so I decided to call up my grandparents to tell them that I was coming over. When I got there, I was in tears outside their house, with the box full of broken memories in it. I knew the little bit of me I had inside had just died. I knew Alba knew what she was doing, and so did my grandparents. So the very next day, when they called up to tell her that they needed her to vacate the house she was living in, which was under their name, she was enraged. The word also spread to the rest of my extended family, who had similar reactions to this situation. Everyone is fed up with my mom, as she has done some things outside this situation too that has left everyone fed up with her. But the thing now is that she no longer is allowing me to get into her house to get my stuff, telling me this is the least amount of repercussions I deserve after being so unfair towards her. What should I do here? AITA? Okay, so a lot of you were asking about my mom's living arrangements, and basically, my stepdad lost his job during the global situation, which caused them to lose their house, which they were previously renting. Ever since losing his job, he hasn't found another one, and now it's just my mom who does the earning and looking after the home. As for her anger towards everyone shunning her, she has apparently loaned a lot of money from a lot of relatives and friends, which she refuses to return. Along with that, Alba has shown similar treatment towards a few of my cousins, like she has done towards me, like stealing, breaking things, etc., which has almost gotten her into trouble with the cops. But with my mom begging, they have left her alone, only with the understanding that she will leave them alone too. This situation was just the icing on the cake. My mom has been like this for a while now. I have heard that she has been this way with my dad as well, putting him into so much stress that he would often have to get hospitalized for hypertension. In a way, hearing this makes me glad that he's not here to see the lifestyle she is leading. He'd probably be disappointed. As for me, we're still figuring out a way to get my things back from her. I have no interest to go back to living with her. I will either find a roommate whenever I return during break or just see what I can do. But never in a million years I would return back to living with her. But anyways, I'll update you all once we come up with a firm plan. Things finally seemed to be moving once my grandparents threatened to call the cops if my mom didn't allow me to come get my stuff. It was kind of surprising how easily she got convinced by a single threat. And my suspicions were right. My mom not only destroyed several of my things, but also threw out some of the last pieces of memories I had with my dad. My room in the house was locked, and this woman went as far as to break the door open to take away my things. I called the cops as soon as I found this out because I knew at that point her hate for me was getting out of hand. It was like, even after years and years of abuse, I hadn't felt unsafe. But this time I really did, and so I decided to file a report just in case. The thing is that I couldn't really do anything about the destroyed property, but the damage onto the door of my grandparents' house, they could file a report for that, and they did. This made my mom angrier, and apparently, according to her texts, which ranged from her berating me to apologizing to me, her husband has been planning to leave her if she loses this house. Seeing her in this state truly looks pathetic. She has been trying to visit me at my grandparents' almost every day, and I have been trying to avoid her every day. This is all I have for now. We'll update you all later. Updating this with teary eyes, as I hate to admit this because some part of me still hope that you guys were wrong, but you aren't. My mom broke into my grandparents' home a few days back by throwing a rock through the glass window. She thought no one was home when she did this, but I was there at that time. I immediately called the cops and didn't even bother getting out when I heard the footsteps and glass shattering noise, as I thought someone had broken into the house to rob or steal. But after finding out it was Mom, I instantly talked to the cops about filing for a restraining order. And with a history of reports against her, this was a very easy one to receive. Ever since this situation has happened, my mom has received an eviction notice and divorce papers as well. Honestly, I feel no sense of remorse for her, since she should have seen all this coming when she let her husband walk all over her while raising the spawn of Satan, who, too, doesn't seem to give a shit about her. As for me, I will soon be leaving for college and will move to the house that my mom used to live in, since my grandparents wish to leave it under my name once they pass away, making it another one of the reasons why my mom and stepdad didn't like me much. Honestly, at this point, all I care about is moving on from this situation with my head up high, which, with all of your support, I was able to. So, thank you for that. NTA, I would cut off all contact and get a restraining order against these psychos. Why didn't your grandparents shift you to their place already? You should have taken that step long back. But regardless, please make sure to move while you still have time. NTA, call the cops on her. Your patience is truly commendable because if I were in your place, my considerations regarding trying to punch her would have come to life already. All names are fake. I have two children, Laurel, 24, and Kevin, 15. Laurel is from my first marriage. Kevin and my wife think that I favor Laurel, but that's just not true. They've complained about it over the years, but now it's at a boiling point. The most recent complaint is that I gave her a free house. None of their accusations have ever been true, but this one especially isn't. I've been with the same company for over 35 years. Decades ago, my job made me and several other employees travel to their HQ so often that they bought us condos in the home city because it was cheaper at the time than constantly paying for hotels. At the time, property in the city was cheap. We had free use, but technically the company owned them and they paid all expenses. In 2020, obviously all business travel stopped. At the time, Laurel was moving to that city with her new husband, and they were looking for a place. Because it was just sitting empty and would be for a long time, I told her that they could live in the condo until things went back to normal. It would be safe and clean, and it would give them a chance to save money for a better place of their own, as they were expecting their first child. In 2021, two things happened. The company decided to shut down all physical offices for a permanent WFH, and I decided to take my retirement. With closing the physical offices, they also really wanted to get rid of the condos. They offered them to us at an extreme discount. I didn't want it, but Laurel did. She and her husband offered to pay the cost, and I let them. It was less than a one-fourth of market cost, but it wasn't free or a gift to her. Kevin realizes that there's not going to be anything like that for him, and he is raging about it. He claims I've always done things like this, and that I gave her a house, but am probably going to kick him out at 18 like every American parent. My wife is on his side and angry about this, and that I let Laurel be a stay-at-home mother and not her. None of these things are true. I didn't give her a free house. I let her buy one for a discount because she happened to be buying at the exact same time that there was any opportunity for one. Also, she got to be a stay-at-home mother because she happened to be having a baby at the only time in modern history that required people to stay home, not because I was funding her. I realize how it must look, but really, she just ended up doing things in special situations where there were unique opportunities. I don't think I'm in the wrong here because I don't treat my children differently. If I happen to come across an opportunity for Kevin to do the same with the same, I would make sure he's aware, but I can't imagine I would. NTA, but honestly, I feel like your wife is the source of what Kevin is spewing out. What 15-year-old boy cares about housing? It seems like your wife is using Kevin to try and get you to buy a property in his or her name to even the scoring between Kevin and Laurel. NTA, it is inappropriate for your 15-year-old to have an opinion about your finances in 6 years. He's 15, and your wife doesn't need to compete with your daughter. You should not be subsidizing your daughter's life, but it doesn't sound like you are. What evidence do your wife and son have that you're going to stop supporting him at 18, or that that decision belongs only to you and not you and your wife? Marriage therapy to stop the splitting can't come soon enough. Sister-in-law and I never truly got along. The reason is that we have different mindsets on some stuff regarding how we live our lives. And while I'm respectful or indifferent about her life choices, she's always trying to impose her beliefs and choices on me and my fiance, her brother. My fiance and I, 26 male and 26 female, have been together for 7 years, and we have a very loving relationship. He proposed 6 months ago, and I started wedding planning 3 months ago. We have a very loving relationship with great communication, and we still go on dates and like to dress up. We join activities and hobbies together, and overall, our relationship hasn't changed, and we haven't stopped loving each other more and more. Sister-in-law, on the other hand, has a different mindset. She was married, and her marriage was the kind of marriage where they brag about how much they hate and can't stand each other. She'd also mock me and my fiance's relationship the entire time and call our dates, dressing up, and our hobbies bullshit. Claimed we do it for attention and don't truly love each other, and also said how she can't wait till we end up hating each other too in the future. She and her husband filed for divorce 2 months ago, and I honestly am indifferent about it. I don't feel sad or happy. I just don't care. Yesterday, my mother-in-law and father-in-law had joined us for dinner. As I was talking about some wedding stuff, mother-in-law pretty much confronted me and said, "How can I be so happy and excited to plan a wedding while my sister-in-law is getting divorced?" My fiance tried to intervene, but mother-in-law told him to shut up because he's a terrible brother who doesn't support his sister through those hard times. She also said I have no empathy for sister-in-law, and I only care about my wedding and my little stupid dates. I told her I indeed don't feel sorry that sister-in-law, the person who bragged about hating her husband and being in a loveless marriage, is getting divorced. She and her husband had it coming. I also won't feel sorry for a person who mocked my happiness and relationship. Mother-in-law said I'm very insensitive for saying this, and she expects an apology to her as well as to my sister-in-law for this. She left after that and only told me and my fiance to call her if we want to apologize, and only then. AITA? NTA. Sounds like a good riddance situation. You don't have to feel bad about being happy about your upcoming nuptials. And the marriage sister-in-law had sounds toxic. AF. Sure, lots of married couples argue or run into disagreements. But to hate your spouse, one you choose to marry? Yikes. I would be so put off if I spoke to a married person who talked about hating their spouse. No matter how much my husband and I might argue, I love him dearly. And luckily, most of our arguments are about sillier things rather than the bigger things where we tend to see eye to eye. Like him, having a hard time waking up for important things if I'm not home to wake him. Stuff like that can cause arguments. Or him knowing he needs to be awake at a certain time for something, but not allowing enough sleep time the night before, causing him to sleep right through what he needed to be awake for. Even if I'm home, trying to wake him. He had told another relative that he'd take a friend home from church and then didn't wake up in time to go to the church, despite me trying to wake him for half a dozen times. I don't go to church, so I couldn't take over his promise for him because I only go to churches for weddings, funerals, and possibly some other special or big events for loved ones. I do not ever claim to hate him, no matter how much his sleeping habits piss me off, though. NTA, I bet your sister-in-law and her ex-husband were the types of people to have a cake topper, showing them fighting or showing him being forced to marry with a ball and chain at his feet. Seeing happy couples should make you happy, happy for them. If she isn't able to see someone being happy and being thrilled for them because she's so focused on her own misery,